Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Awards Night. And thank you, Al, thank you, Landon, for those very nice introductions, and thank you all for being here for this great event. Many are asking me why I'm still walking with a cane. My hip operation was almost 2 years ago. Besides the fact that my surgeon told me to, I'll tell you what Winston Churchill told his wife when she asked him why he was still carrying a cane. He said, "I thought it would make me look more distinguished." His wife's reply was, "Well, you should have bought a hat." My wife didn't tell me to buy a hat, but she did say, well, every little bit helps. And actually, though, she's never been worried about what other people think. After all, when she married me, I was selling pots and pans. Now, the president of the company that I worked for did not like hearing us say pots and pans. He said, well, he was so poor when he grew up that people said they didn't have a pot to pee in or a window to throw it out of. In fact, he said, you know, a pot goes in the bed, a pan goes under the bed, and ours is to cook in, so we call it cookware. You know, my mother really liked that a whole lot better. You can imagine then her embarrassment when I told her she would now have to tell her friends her son was selling brassieres. It was then I told her the history of the bra, that it was invented by a German named Otto Titzlinger, then copied by a Frenchman named Philip Brasserie. Now, Brasserie was a better salesman and promoter than Titzlinger, so people began to call it a brassiere. So I asked my mom, isn't she glad I didn't announce I was going to be selling Titzlingers? When I started selling lingerie, that was okay. That was a whole lot better, because then people wanted to know if I was part of Fredrick's of Hollywood. That would be scandalous. No, his name was Fredrick Mellinger. My last name is Fredrick. You see, we were much more like a Victoria's Secret, very elegant, very sophisticated, and yet one husband told me that he judged my lingerie designs by how quickly they hit the floor. You can imagine how relieved my mom was when she could tell her friends I was in a respectable business now, nutrition and wellness. Now I could joke about age and staying in shape rather than about our name. Like Irma Bombeck once said, the reason she took up jogging was because of her age. And at her age, the only time she got to hear heavy breathing was when she was jogging. Well, then somebody asked Sophie Tucker, well, what was the secret of her long life? She said, just keep breathing. When they asked Lucille Ball how she stayed so young, she said, well, I just lied about my age. When they asked Mary Kay what a woman needed to stay healthy and young, she said, well, from a baby to 14, you need good health and good parents. From 14 to 40, good looks. 40 to 60, you need personality. But after 60, all you need is cash. My longest vocation was banking. When asked why I liked banking, I told them what Willie Sutton, the famous bank robber, said when they asked him why he robbed banks. He said, that's where the money is. Actually, the reason I got into banking was because as a young man, I sat across the desk from bankers trying to get a loan. And I vowed that one day I would be on the other side of the desk. Actually, in fact, I never did get to the other side of the desk and make loans. But I did start, fund, or serve on the board of 6 different banks. Somebody asked me if I got out of banking because I lost interest. No, actually. That isn't a bad pun, though, is it? Well, that almost sounds like I was a job hopper with no rhyme or reason to my career. Yet I was in the cookware business for 20 years. I was in the lingerie business and bra business for 30 years. And then in nutrition, I've been in for 20 years already. All of this was overlapped by 36 years in banking. Someone heard me say about my career, said it made good sense to them. From pots to cups, busts to banking, and lingerie to longevity. Back in April of 2020, I stood behind the curtain waiting for John Fleming to introduce me as the recipient of the Direct Selling News Lifetime Achievement Award. My mind was bombarded with thoughts and my heart beat with ecstasy, wondering how in the world did a poor boy from Waco, Texas get here today. Of course, I had known John Fleming, the famous editor and publisher of Direct Selling News, for almost 50 years. And I had known Stuart Johnson, the owner of Direct Selling News, for almost as long. And they were responsible for this honor. Yet, there were hundreds, or more like thousands, who helped me make that incredible journey. And since my life is a work in progress, many of you within the sound of my voice will help me make my dreams come true. I thought then how great it would be to be able to at least let the world know that I knew that without the grace of God, some very patient, kind, and brilliant people, I would not have achieved the heights nor survived the depths that I have seen. So when Tony Jerry told me I should write a book and he would publish it, my first thought was, well, nobody would read it. And my second thought was, I don't have anything to say. I don't even know how I got here. But then I remembered the night of the Achievement Award and remembering how so many people helped me. If my experiences could help someone get up again, try again, to dream the impossible dream and never ever give up, and to know it will work out in the end, even if it hasn't, it's not the end. So I told Tony Jerry, the publisher, that I would write the book. Since then, I've been dictating my story to a professional writer who has smoothed out my Texas slang and probed for details and actually polished my memory. It should be in bookstores soon. You know, I always knew Mom made our clothes, yet now I know it was Dad who made us dream. He did not tell us what to dream, but he did plant the seeds. He read novels and told us the story as he read them. Other times he would quote poetry such as The Raven by Poe, or Psalm of Life by Longfellow, or Road Not Taken by Frost, or Invictus by Henley. And then he took us to church where we watched him teach classes, preach from the pulpit, always focused on helping others. From all of this, I ended up with a dream of a college education to teach kids to love literature as much as I do, and to teach people to serve God and help others. The first step in achieving this was a college education. So at 16 years old, I graduated from high school, ready to take on the world. Not sure where to find it, but I was ready. The only problem was I only had $10 in my pocket and no car. I was really lucky to have a big brother who knew about direct selling. He had sold cookware to single girls the previous summer, and he told me that he would show me how to do it. In the first 2 weeks, I actually made enough money to buy a car, pay all my expenses, and so now I had the how to make my dream come true. Now, it was not really that easy, because after that first great summer, I was in school for my first semester and I made some displays, but you know what? I didn't sell one customer. So when the company held a sales meeting between Christmas and New Year's, they called it Booster Week, I refused to go because I was so depressed and so low, I didn't think I could sell anymore. So I got a construction job. It was a job for a week. It only paid 75 cents an hour, or $30 a week. But that was guaranteed money. I later found out it was guaranteed poverty. When I got to the work site, I was told to move this stack of 2x4s up a ladder to the second story. I started out carrying 2 at a time, but by the afternoon I was down to 1, and by the end of the week, my shoulder hurt so bad I felt it for months later. It was so bad, when I got back to school, I started demonstrating that cookware to those single girls until I could finally start selling again. This time, the no's did not even bother me. that shoulder hurt that bad. Then I started returning and recruiting a group to take on the road to Memphis, Tennessee, because I heard I would get an override on those people that I brought in. This taught me some valuable lessons. When you're not selling, don't carry 2x4s up a ladder. The second was just make more demonstrations and never, ever give up. It's fun to make money. That's the last thing. It's fun to make money off of those you recruit. After graduating from college, I decided I could do better and help more people by staying in the direct selling business than I could teaching school. I had already helped hundreds of guys go to college, learn how to sell, learn how to set goals and how to reach them. We soon attracted the attention of a manufacturer of cookware who helped us develop our own line of cookware with our own label called Colonial Cookware. We guaranteed it would last a lifetime. We have been using ours for over 60 years and it still looks like new. And that's not because we eat out a lot either. This is where we made the transition from salesman to businessman. Although for several years I would go out with the guys on the once dreaded booster week just to remember how much better it was than carrying 2x4s up a 12-foot ladder. Zig Ziglar said, he was, I think most of you have heard him, a very famous speaker. He was actually one of our franchise dealers. And he said, what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. Boy, is that ever true. When I was 11 years old, Dad put me on a registered quarter horse, teaching me how to sit in the saddle, how to neck rein, and how to squeeze my legs to nudge him with my feet to get him to trot. When I came bouncing back to Dad, he let me know this horse was trained to foxtrot, which is a very smooth, enjoyable ride. He told me in no uncertain terms to go make that horse foxtrot and don't come back until you can. I don't know if the horse heard him say that or what, but somehow I did it, and that feeling of gliding across the fields on horseback solidified my next big dream. I wanted a 1,000-acre ranch with horses, cows, and calves bawling for the mamas. Napoleon Hill said, whatever you can conceive and believe, you can achieve. Rooted in that reassuring philosophy, we bought our first 88 acres the year I turned 30. By the time I was 50, we had over 1,000 acres, 5 horses, 200 head of cows, and lots of bawling calves. How did that happen? Remember our mantra: imagine it, act on it, be willing to die for it. When interest rates hit 21%, we found many single girls could not afford those payments for a set of cookware. So we looked for a product that would sell for cash so it would not have to be financed, and something every woman could use. We tried several items before we heard from our wives about a new brassiere that was being sold by direct sales, and women loved it. It was made so that a small woman would become larger and a large woman would become smaller. I called the owner of the factory and made an appointment to see him. He thought I was coming to buy bras. When I told him I came to buy his factory, he laughed and said it was not for sale, but asked what I had in mind. Well, after explaining my ideas, he was intrigued and agreed to sell me the business. We signed papers on May 5th, 1970. While we were still celebrating, on July the 4th, 1970, they started burning bras at Berkeley, a phenomenon that continued for, several months. This is where everyone was teasing me about going bust. However, we had the last laugh. Because of a bust, we got an uplift. Remember the old story about the pessimist and the optimist shoe salesman? They were sent to Africa to open up the territory. The pessimist wrote the company and said, "I'm coming home. Nobody here wears shoes." The optimist wrote back saying, "Send more products. This territory is great. Nobody has shoes." The business grew steadily over the years, and we still have a small business called the Custom Fit Bra Company that continues to provide products to our loyal customers. Since the bra had to be fitted, recruiting and building was slow. We kept remembering what St. Augustine said, God provides the wind, but man must raise the sail. In the mid-'80s, the wind began to blow in our direction. Women entering the workforce wanted feminine lingerie under their business attire, and they wanted romantic clothes to wear when they got home. To raise the sail and catch the wind, we had to learn how to design and manufacture a whole new line of lingerie. This line of products, together with a new party plan sales system, caught the wind and sales began to climb rapidly. When we hit our peak, we had 3 factories in the U.S., 6 around the world, and 50,000 women holding parties and selling our Cameo Calais line of lingerie. It was designed for all the women you are, if you're a wife, mother, or sweetheart. Because women told us that how they dressed helped them feel better about themselves, whether it was their innerwear or outerwear. Florence Ziegfeld, a famous Broadway producer, was showing his friend a silk slip for his leading lady, and it cost over $150. The friend asked why in the world he would pay $150 for a slip that no one would ever see. And if they did, they wouldn't know what it was worth. His reply, they won't know, but she'll know. Still today it's clear that, as Chopin said, there is a nerve in every woman that answers to the vibrations of beauty. In 1995, my brother and my partner in the lingerie business, in the Irving National Bank, and in the ranch had a heart attack, which made us realize we needed to begin to simplify our business and our lives. The trouble with direct sales businesses is you have thousands of consultants who depend on you to protect their business. This was uppermost in our mind. Consequently, we were thrilled when a competitor made us a compelling offer that included taking care of our consultants. The next year, a large bank made us offer to buy the Irving National Bank for over 2 times book, payable in their bank stock. We took the stock and then watched it double in value, so now I would never have to sit on either side of a banker's desk again. It's kind of sounded like retirement, I guess, but I did not like the sound of that. I still had dreams to fill and ones yet to come. 2 personal goals or dreams related to big game hunting and sailing a sloop in the Caribbean. While we had hunted elk in the mountains, we stayed in a rustic cabin down by the river. My dream was to take Dad and my sons and brothers to a camp up high in the mountains. We would hunt on horseback so we could get up high where the elk were. With money now being no object, we hired an outfitter to provide the horses, the tents, and a cook at 11,000 feet up in the mountains. The first day it snowed a couple of feet covering our campsite, and it was a picture right out of my dreams, yet potentially dangerous for my 92-year-old father who was still hunting with us. We were surprised the next morning to see Dad on horseback, straight as an arrow, just like the Indians he descended from, ready to ride and leave with his sons and grandsons in the snow that was up to the horse's belly. A dream without belief is just a wish. A wish without belief is just a dream. But dreams really do come true when you act on it. At the DSA meeting in June of 2001, I was approached by an old friend, Bob King, who was consulting with MannaFest. They had asked him to find someone to buy out a dissident shareholder. The stock had been up to $22, but was down to $2 because of pressure from insider trading. His stock was worth about $8 million at the current price. Thinking it might be perfect for a quick in and out deal, I met with one of the founders, Sam Castor, and he told me his vision and the science behind the product and introduced me to the doctors on staff. After hearing about the 8 sugars and cell-to-cell communication, I asked one of the doctors if he thought it would help my wife, who was in bad health and had been on heavy doses of Imuran and prednisone. The doctor said he did not know, but it wouldn't hurt her. Then I met with Ray Robbins, and he was very encouraging about me buying the stock. So then I met with the shareholder himself and reached a deal that would close before the end of September. On September the 11th, 2001, the Twin Towers fell and the whole world seemed to fall apart. My brother and others who had thought about coming in with me on the deal said they wouldn't do it, and they all backed out. They advised me that I should too. However, I thought about how it might really help my wife, and if I didn't do it, this company might not make it. So I wrote a check and became the second largest shareholder and was elected to the board the November following. I really felt like I was home. I felt all my previous experience prepared me for this role. I knew with a little help, the company would turn around and become profitable. The stock would go up and confirm our belief in the company. The first thing I did was nominate experienced people who knew the industry to our board. Alan Kennedy, CEO of Nature's Sunshine, Jerry Gilbert, outside counsel to DSA for 30 years, and the president of Encyclopedia Britannica, Pat Weir, our first woman board member, and Larry Joe, a high-level CPA and entrepreneur. The CEO who brought me into MannaTech was acting like I was the enemy and was bad-mouthing the 2 founders to our associates. Well, the new board members wouldn't tolerate that kind of thing, so they decided to replace him. He was replaced by Sam Castor, one of the founders and the largest shareholder, and loved by the field, by the way. The board asked me to serve as lead director and handle the board meetings, agenda, and other chairman-type duties. Sam did not want to do some of those kinds of things. Well, sales took off, hitting over $400 million in 2006. Profits were strong, dividends dependable, and the stock soared to $26 a share, making my stock worth over $50 million. Someone asked if I was sorry I didn't sell. I quickly answered, not at all. I have received a great return on my investment, even bought a big house and named it the Manna Villa in honor of our associates. But best of all, I stayed in a position to protect this company, and my wife's health is so much better. With Sam as chairman, the structure worked well until he had to resign to settle litigation with the Attorney General. It had banned him from being an officer for 5 years. The board asked me to be CEO, but that was not part of my dreams. I did agree to become chairman of the board so that I could help lead the board and the company through some tough times, making sure that our loyal customers always had access to their products. With the hiring of Al Bala, our CEO, 5 years ago, the company now has a leader who can keep us profitable and growing again. So it did work out in the end, just like we said it would. With Al and Landon leading this team, I feel proud of our past and confident in our future. It looks like the 3rd decade of the 21st century is going to be our decade. Korea is continuing to lead the way. Hong Kong is beginning to flourish. South Africa remains strong. Mexico is rising, and the U.S. is experiencing renaissance. Congratulations to all of you who helped make this possible. I look forward to watching many of you be honored tonight. Now, my life has not slowed down in this century. While MannaTech was enduring tough regulations, my loans to a party plan wine company looked like they were going to go into default. The only answer seemed to be to cut my losses and get out. However, The fundamentals were right. It had a good wine and a good winemaker, good margins, good field leaders, but it needed someone good at cost controls. Fortunately, I had a son that proved good at that in our lingerie business, and so I told him I would put in the money needed to gain control of the business if he would come in as chairman of the board. We took control, and business became profitable within a year and has grown steadily, increasing capacity and even buying our own building. At the same time this was going on, I was getting a winery and vineyard started up on the Red River at our ranch. 10 years later, it's one of the premier boutique wineries in Texas. Our partners in Blue Ostrich Winery are my daughter Julie, the operations manager, and her husband Patrick, the winemaker. They operate a very successful business out of that one location, and they've won several gold medals for their outstanding wines. Now the ranch is self-sufficient as we raise both cattle and grapes. You can see what you can do with $10 and a career in direct selling. I have often thought if I knew about network marketing and multi-level compensation plans, I would have never had to start my own company. Many of you have got what I was always looking for. You have your own business, unlimited potential, opportunity to help others, personal growth and development, and the opportunity for financial security and an enduring family legacy. All of that stands between you and your destiny is your mind. Napoleon Hill pointed the way. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. When I wrote down my dreams many years ago, I folded it up, put it in my billfold. Years later, I took it out, read it, amazed at how many of those dreams had come true and how many were and still in progress. I believe it was Marcus Aurelius who said, "Imagine it and it will be so." Yet your goals must be measurable and attainable to be compelling. Roy Vaden said in Up the Down Staircase, "Show me your actions and I will show you what you really believe." We must act on what you imagined. As Zig Ziglar said, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Jesus said, "Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open." There is one more secret to having your dreams come true and reaching your goals. It's illustrated in a story called Hope for the Flowers, and it's about two caterpillars that want to become beautiful butterflies. The black caterpillar comes back as a butterfly, and he tells the yellow caterpillar she should become a butterfly. But how, asked yellow. You must want to fly more than you want to be a caterpillar, he said. You mean to die? Asked yellow. Well, yes and no. What looks like you will die, but what is really you will still live. Isn't that better than never risking for a butterfly? So yellow decided to risk it. For courage, she hung right beside the old cocoon and began to spin one of her own. Imagine, I didn't even know I could do this, she said. If I have the stuff inside me to make a cocoon, perhaps the stuff to make a butterfly is there too. What's inside you? What will you decide? Yes, you'll have to make changes, and changes will involve some risk. A Korean general once said, "Do not weep for me. Do not advise my men of my death. Blow the horn, beat the drums, unfurl the flag, march on. We will never, ever give up." That's the kind of courage it takes to risk everything for what you believe. Your dreams, your goals must be so compelling. You will first have imagined it, then you will act on it, and then you will be willing to die for it. Renoir, the great painter, suffered from acute rheumatoid arthritis. And yet he still painted even though it hurt so badly to hold the brush. Someone asked him how he endured the pain. And he said, "The pain passes, the beauty lasts forever." Henry James once said, "There is in every woman and in every woman's future." And he said the mold of a woman's future and the shape of her life and destiny and the sum total of all her accomplished achievements are in her own hands that hold the invisible brush that paints pictures on the walls of her mind. So we remember what Renoir said, "The pain passes, the beauty endures." You are holding the brush. You can paint the future any way you want it. Act on it, and it will be so. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.